Hello friends, good evening. Today we'll be discussing a very interesting topic from your corporate law. The name of the topic today what I am discussing is Certificate of Incorporation. Underneath we'll read how Certificate of Incorporation is a conclusive evidence of the existence of the company. So students, most of the time in the examination you will get a question like this. Certificate of incorporation is the conclusive evidence of the existence of the company. Explain. So when your examiner asks the questions like this, it is actually a statement. And this statement is given by whom? It is not given by company law. Wherever it is given by this particular statement, it's a very famous case studies what was happened in that particular case, Lord Keynes and Lord Macmillan. Then two persons, they actually provided this statement. As we know, a certificate of incorporation says that actually it is the birth date, we can say the birth date of a company, from which date or effective from that date the company actually come into existence. Take the example, if I'll take your date of birth of yours, suppose you took birth on a particular date, let's say at 8 a.m. in the morning, but the authority of the hospital, they mention that instead of 8 a.m. they mention it as 8.5. This means 8 past 5 minutes. This means what will happen for all your future times, your birth time, it will be 8.5 a.m. only. Later on, if you will cry like anything, but still your incorporation state, your time of birth will remain as 8.5. Likewise, when your company takes birth, it means when a company actually come into existence, so what happens is the company sent a lot of documents to ROC. Documents like your memorandum of associations and copy of MOA and so many other documentations. It's a full bunch of documentations which is sent to sent to the ROC for registrations. But once this particular registration is done and the date whatever is mentioned in that particular certificate of incorporations, it will be taken as the birth date of the company. So to explain it further, what happens is in a case, a very famous case, what was happened between Jubilee Curtain Mills Limited versus Lewis. In that particular case, what happened? Jubilee Curtain Mills, here the case law, I mentioned the case law here. Case law is your Jubilee Curtain Mills Limited versus Lewis. So what happens in this case actually? Let me explain about this particular case. It is a case of 1920. In the year 1920, this Jubilee Curtain Mills Limited, they were incorporated a company as the name is Jubilee Curtains Limited on 6th of January 1920. On 6th January 1920, this particular the board of directors of this company, they sent all the informations to ROC for registration. On that very same date, on 6th January 1920, one person named Lewis, Jubilee Curtain Mills Limited, what it did, they have allotted the shares to Lewis on 6th of January 1920. But what happens actually? The certificate of incorporations was issued to the company on 8th of January 8th of January 1920. So when Mr. Lewis came to know this, that the certificate of incorporation is issued to the company on 8th of January 1920, whereas the share certificate which was issued to Mr. Lewis is on 6th of January 1920. So immediately Lewis came to the office of Jubni Cattle Mills Limited, and he actually complained against them that the shares which was allotted to me is void. So now the question is whether the share which was allotted to them is void or not. What happens is, so what is the fact of the case? Actually what happened on 6th of January, when the Jubilee Curtain Mills submitted the documents to ROC, it actually submitted on 6th of January 1920, and ROC also issued the certificate of incorporation 8th of January 1920. But here is a small catch. What happened here? On 8th of January, when certificate of incorporation is issued by by the ROC, it was mistakenly in that CO, in the certificate of incorporation, it was mistakenly printed as 6th of January instead of 8th of January. So instead of 8th, it was mentioned 6th mistakenly. So when it was mentioned 6th mistakenly, this means now the share which was allotted to Mr. Lewis on 6th is become valid. Maybe it's wrongly something good has happened, so but still we will say that it is a valid allotment. So no one can say that is void. So in this the court of law, they have actually provided one particular sentence. That sentence reads like, certificate of incorporation is the conclusive evidence of the existence of the company. So while I'm saying conclusive evidence, this means the word conclusive means it is the final evidence. This means, again I can say, it is a non-changeable. It is called non-changeable. No one can change it later on because it is a conclusive evidence. It is not a prima facie evidence. While I am saying prima facie evidence means this can be changed later on after a thorough investigation. But here it is mentioned that it is conclusive, means it is final, unchangeable. No one can change it later on. So here the court of law says once the COI has been granted to the company, so nothing can be questioned regarding the existence proceedings of this particular certificate. So it is clear from this that the certificate which has been allotted to Lewis is very, very valid. So in this I am having a case law. Just go through it. I'll just show an animated video on this. Just watch it to understand the facts a little bit better.
Certificate of incorporation is the conclusive evidence for existence of company. Jubilee Cotton Mills Limited versus Lewis, 1924. Conversation between Harry and Amy.
हेलो हैरी, डॉक्यूमेंट्स दे दो, मैं आरओसी में जाके कंपनी रजिस्टर करा देता हूँ।
ओके एमी।
Documents submitted. Shares allotted by Harry to Lewis on the date of document submission to ROC.
लुइस आया था, हमने उसको शेयर अलॉट करे हैं, ये रही उसकी पेमेंट।
Conversation between Amy and Lewis.
एमी, यू चीटेड ऑन मी। तुमने मेरे साथ गलत किया है। मैंने तुम्हें सारे शेयर्स की पेमेंट कर दी है, तब भी मुझे सुनने में आ रहा है कि तुम्हारी कंपनी अभी तक रजिस्टर्ड नहीं है और मेरे सारे शेयर्स वॉइड हैं।
लुइस जी, ऐसा नहीं है। हमने कंपनी के डॉक्यूमेंट आरओसी में सबमिट करा दिए हैं। 1-2 दिन में हमारी कंपनी रजिस्टर हो जाएगी।
Certificate of Incorporation received by company. On the 6th of January 1920, the necessary documents were submitted to the registrar for registration. On the 8th of January, that is, 2 days later, he issued Certificate of Incorporation, but mistakenly dated it 6th January instead of 8th January. It was held by the House of Lords that the date borne by the Certificate of Incorporation is the date of the birth of the company. The company shall be deemed to have come into existence on that very date. Hence, the shares allotted to Lewis are valid.
So now you understood that how a certificate of incorporation is a conclusive evidence, and the same was provided in this famous case law between Jubilee Cotton Mills Limited and Lewis. This case was started in the year 1920 and this case is completed at 1924. It was a total 4 years case. It took 4 years to bring out all these decisions, the last statement. So in examination, if your examiner asks question about like this, COI is the conclusive evidence of the existence of the company, then you have to answer to the question by the reference of this case law of Jubilee Cotton Mills Limited. Thank you very much.